If you're Mr. Beast and you're promoting a bank product or something like that, and then you're like, okay, wow, 10 million people are now going to use this bank product, that changes everything for these companies.
So there's this massive wave coming into YouTube right now of Silicon Valley meets YouTube creators. It's all going on behind the scenes, but it's making some creators a ton of money. We're talking some creators are going to walk away with hundreds of millions of dollars over the next 5 to 10 years, and no one's talking about this stuff. So if you're a YouTube creator or thinking about becoming one, I think this video is going to be really eye-opening to you about what's going on behind the scenes and how you can actually make serious money on the platform, because how most people think you make money on YouTube is not really how people are making the majority of money on YouTube. So this video is going to kind of peel back the curtain and show you what's really going on here. Now, I'm going to start off by talking about the problem, okay? And the main problem here is that you're not going to become a YouTube millionaire off AdSense alone, okay? That's the main way most people think you monetize on YouTube, is through the ads that run before your videos. Now, there are a number of problems with YouTube AdSense, but the main two are that one, it's unpredictable, and two, it's honestly not that much money for most creators. For example, if you're getting, say, 1 million views a month on your YouTube channel, on the surface, sounds pretty good, right? Now, the average CPM is generally about $4, which means you're getting about $4 per 1,000 views on the platform. Now, that is before YouTube takes their cut. So after their cut, you're left with about $2 per 1,000 views on your channel, which means with 1 million views per month, you're only making about $2,000 from your YouTube channel. That doesn't take into account any of your expenses, any of the software you pay for, if you pay an editor. So as you can see, you need multiple millions of views every single month just to make a decent amount of money on YouTube. At the same time, those views are not guaranteed. YouTube's algorithm could change at any point. You could get canceled. There's so many different things that could happen to you to kind of offset that YouTube ad revenue and really leave you with not much to show. So that's why most of the creators that know what they're doing and the creators that I work with, they really only rely on AdSense for typically less than like 25 to 30% of their overall revenue, because they've got other additional revenue streams that are kind of supporting them and their business. At the same time, like I said, the lifespan of a YouTube creator is unpredictable. So when you kind of put those together with like the limited ad revenue potential and then the unpredictability of your longevity on YouTube, this creates significant stress for a lot of YouTube creators, okay? Because they're relying on that unpredictable income stream. They don't know how long they're going to be around for. So if you do want to become a YouTube billionaire, you really have to be playing the long game here. But how do you actually play the long game effectively and still win, even if something crazy would happen like YouTube disappearing? How do you still build that foundation so that you're winning nonetheless? Well, to understand that, you first have to understand where we're kind of at in the world of creators right now and how brands kind of think about and interact with creators. See, there's virtually always a gatekeeper between brands and eyeballs, okay? Because the game with brands is to get in front of as many eyeballs as possible, relevant eyeballs, and sell their stuff to those eyeballs. Now, typically these gatekeepers that stand between brands and audiences make a lot of money. And in the past, these have been kind of the legacy advertising partners that you would think of, things like radio, newspapers, and TV ads. But these guys are falling out of favor very quickly. I mean, just in the last year, advertisers spending on radio ads is down 27%, newspapers down 29%, and TV ads are down 13%. So things aren't looking too good for these legacy advertisers that have kind of stood between brands and the audiences. But that money is going somewhere, and where it is going, a lot of it is going to creators on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, on podcasts. And so creators are kind of standing at this very valuable position because they are now the gatekeepers between the brands looking to spend to get in front of the people. But that's not even the real opportunity here for creators. See, creators have a lot more power than the gatekeepers of the past. They have a lot more power than the newspapers did, than the radio did, than the TV ads did. And that's for a number of reasons. The biggest of which is trust, okay? Creators have built a significant amount of trust with their audiences. This is something that you would not get on an NBC TV ad, okay? If you put a 30-second ad on NBC, the amount of trust that that ad has built into it is virtually zero, okay? The ads are so commoditized, there is no brand trust there just because you're advertising on NBC. This in general just makes advertising less effective because there's no emotional connection with that audience. Now, creators have both the trust of their audience and the eyeballs on them, which makes for a dangerous combination for brands. Now, why do I say this is dangerous? Well, it's because creators really have three main options when it comes to how they want to work with brands, okay? They could either do a sponsorship deal, they could do an equity deal, or they could create a competitor themselves. And so let's dive into each of those individual options, why they work, and which ones are going to make creators a lot of money over the next 5 to 10 years. Well, first off, you've got your traditional sponsor deals, okay? These are when you take some money from a brand, say a brand gives you $5,000, you make a sponsored video for them, you pump that video out to your audience, and you collect your $5,000. That's the whole deal. See, this is what most creators tend to think of when they think about working with a brand. It's collecting some money, making a video, calling it a day. Now, this has been around for a long time. It puts some money in your pocket short term, but long term, a sponsor deal isn't really doing much for you in the grand scheme of things. Now, brands have noticed this, and what they're actually trying to do now is get more buy-in from creators themselves. And that's why a lot of brands have been starting to do equity deals with creators, where they're giving the creators a portion of ownership in that actual company in order to work with them. This gets more buy-in from the creator because they want their investment to do well. Now, this is actually where I'm spending a lot more of my time these days. I'm negotiating a lot of equity deals for my clients, getting them ownership in a lot of relevant brands to what they're actually doing. Now, these deals can be structured in a number of different ways, but the three most common deals that I'm kind of negotiating are one, kind of like your straight up angel investment deal. Okay, so with an angel investment, basically what you're doing is you're taking some money, you're putting it into an early company, and you're investing in the hopes that eventually that company is going to sell or go public, and you are going to make a very nice payday on that investment. Okay, when you're angel investing in companies, typically they're only worth maybe a few $1 million in value. Your hope is that they go on to be the next Robinhood, Coinbase, Uber, and sell for billions of dollars, giving you a very healthy return. Now, the second option you can take is kind of similar to the sponsorship route, except instead of a company giving you money for a sponsored video, they give you equity in the company for a sponsored video instead. Now, this can be a very attractive option to a lot of creators, especially those that are already having their needs met in terms of finances for today. Okay, if you're making enough money to get by today, save some money for later, getting another 5-10 grand from a sponsor might not be the most attractive option for you. In that case, you might be a lot more drawn to something more long-term, like getting equity in a company that could go on to become worth billions of dollars. Now, the third common way I negotiate a lot of these deals is on an equity-based referral program. So a lot of companies do offer things like affiliate programs or referral programs, and they typically just pay out cash. But one thing that we like to negotiate on is creating an equity-based affiliate program. And this really gets creators incentivized to continue to create content and talk about these particular brands, because every time they make a referral, every time they get someone to sign up for that brand, they are getting equity in that company instead of just dollars. So maybe they invested some money into that company up front, and they're getting referral equity every time someone signs up for that app. That is a very healthy way for companies to grow very quickly, is by partnering with these creators. And at the same time, it's a great way for creators to really have some serious longevity with what they are doing, okay? Because for example, okay, if you were an early investor in Uber, and Uber went on to be very, very successful, but if you were an early investor in Uber and you put in, say, $25,000, that would have gone on to be worth over $100 million. So you can make some seriously nice returns from these investments if you are a creator. However, you do have to keep in mind that 95+% of these companies are likely going to go to zero, so you really have to do some due diligence and think about which companies really align with your brand and that you really believe in long-term are going to succeed in their kind of vertical. So that's opportunity number one, but opportunity number two kind of takes things a step further. And a lot of creators are actually realizing once they get to a certain point, it might not even be worth it for them to promote other people's companies, even if they have buying and even if they're invested into that company. And that's because they could start a competitor. And this is where things get really good for creators and really dangerous for brands. So for some context here, I've seen firsthand these equity deals have the potential to explode these startups. If you can get even a few large creators in on a startup, I have seen that over 5x an entire company's growth over the span of just a month or two. So creators have the ability to really drive a lot of attention, a lot of eyeballs, a lot of users to these particular apps and services. Now, creators are kind of waking up to this and saying, hey, why am I funneling all this traffic to you when I could potentially just start my own version of this thing and funnel all my traffic there instead? And so what I'm seeing now, and what I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of in the near future, is a lot more creators deciding that, okay, instead of doing this equity deal over here, I'm going to start my own competitor over here because I know that I have millions of eyeballs that I can drive over here instead of sending them to this other company where I get maybe some small fraction of a percent of equity. And this is actually what a lot of the creators I work with are starting to do. Okay, they're really thinking hard about, okay, do I want equity in this company, or do I just want to build something myself that can compete and that I can drive just a ton of traffic to because I have control over so many eyeballs? And while there is a lot more work required up front and a lot more investment required up front in order to get something like this off the ground, long term, I mean, the potential is crazy. And I mean, look at Mr. Beast Burger, for example. Okay, Mr. Beast could have partnered with McDonald's, done kind of like the Travis Scott meal, but just like the Mr. Beast meal, meal, done something like that, made some money and had a successful campaign. But instead he decided to open up hundreds of restaurants across the entire country, and even months after launch, Mr. Beast Burger is still successfully bringing in a significant amount of money for Mr. Beast every single month. So I'm seeing a lot of creators start to follow Mr. Beast's lead on that and create their own companies because they want that full ownership. And this is where I'm seeing the most potential for future YouTube millionaires to come from, okay? First off, the equity deals, where if you get equity into a number of different startups, say you get equity in 10 different startups, one of them goes on to be very successful, exits for $1 billion. That could be, for you, millions of dollars just from that one particular relationship you had with that company. At the same time, for creators that have reached that level where they have enough dominance in their particular niche to start their own product or service and compete with some of the other offerings out there, from what I'm seeing, that has the potential to take things even a step further because now they have 100% ownership in that particular venture. And where things start to get really interesting is when multiple creators come together to form a project together. Because if you think about it, there's only so many large, say, finance creators out there. So if all those finance creators kind of came together and created some kind of app or service, think about all of the attention they could drive to this thing. I mean, they could really take this thing to a whole different level than someone like Robinhood could, and for so much cheaper, okay? Because Robinhood is spending hundreds and thousands of dollars to acquire every new user at this point. And so if a bunch of creators came together, they've got all of this quote unquote free exposure to their existing audiences, they could blow something up a lot cheaper than one of these startups could. So that is the opportunity, and that is where I see the next kind of round of YouTube millionaires coming from over the next 5 to 10 years. I expect to see a lot more angel investing in startups, a lot more equity deals, and just a lot more creators deciding to start their own businesses, not just merch lines, but actual businesses that go on to be very, very successful. Now, if you're a YouTube creator, you found this interesting, the next thing you should do is check out this video over here where I dive into how to price your sponsorships. I work with a couple dozen creators on YouTube on landing them sponsor deals, negotiating sponsorships, etc. So in that video, I kind of break down the general process that I use for setting sponsorship rates. So if you want to check that out, I'll catch you over there.